Welcome to the Park Board of Wednesday, February 6th, 2019. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make a video or audio recording of the public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed accountable, acknowledged, and permissible. Roll call, Commissioners.
Bob Tavares. Joe Schulenberg.
Anthony Hopkins. Rodrigo.
Jeffrey Sylvia. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting of January 9th,
Make a
2019.
motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting from January 9th.
Second.
Motion been made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Citizen input, no one has signed up. Street Tree Planning Committee. No one here for that. New business correspondence regarding proposed tree removal, Pembroke Street.
For the record, my name is Gene Crouch. I'm a senior environmental scientist with Van Essing and Breslin. We're an engineering company working primarily out of Watertown. What we're proposing here is Enbridge, which is the parent company of Algonquin Gas Company.
So you can sit.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. Is proposing to do some, they have a pipeline that runs down the old railroad bed that's just set back from the edge of the Mount Hope Bay. And, excuse me, they're putting in what's called a cathodic protection ground bed. It's a corrosion protection system that's electrically operated, so it's an active corrosion system. It attaches to the pipe. There'll be a cable that'll run down the side of Pembroke Street and then out into Mount Hope Bay, and there'll be what are called anodes at the end of that, and they disperse electricity. It travels back and prevents corrosion from the pipeline. To put that cable in along Pembroke Street, there are a couple of trees that we're assuming that the contractor is going to have to take down as he goes in to put that cable in. It's a relatively small electrical cable. It'll be in about a 2-foot deep by 2-foot wide trench just off the edge of the paved roadway. There are 4 trees that were identified in the plan, and I can provide you with these. The green dots on here, maybe I should hold them up so everybody can see it. Pardon? I don't know if these will stay up on an easel.
But if you lean that other thing against it, maybe tape it.
And green spots on the 4 trees.
They
Yep.
have those in the package. Did you submit that to
Yes,
them?
I did.
Right.
Yeah,
You
this
just
was.
show it to the camera,
This
and then
was
they have
attached.
it in their package. If
Oh,
you
okay.
sent that to me.
All right, good.
It's in the back of their package, so it's right here, but it has to be cut in four.
Right, there should be like a fold-out or something. So, the gas pipeline, this is sort of the end of Pembroke Street. Pembroke runs east-west. Mount Hope Bay is out here. This is the old rail bed. Oh, thank you. This is the old rail bed here, and the pipeline is actually shown here in it. What we are looking to do is, this is Pembroke Street here. This is the Fall River wastewater treatment plant on this side of the road. There is a fence right along here, and then there are several residences on this side. It is Pembroke is a dead end right here. So we would be running just off, this heavy line is the actual cable that's just off the edge of the pavement, and there are 3 trees. There's sort of a cluster of trees here. Would be taking 3 that are the closest to the road, and then further down, as we get down towards the end where Pembroke intersects with Atlantic Avenue, there's another tree at the corner. Then there's the entrance into the treatment plant right here. It's like a secondary entrance. And then our cable is then going to head out from there out into the water. We've identified these trees to come down if they need to. If the contractor, when they get out there, can work around them without having to actually take the trees down, they won't if they don't have to. But we're assuming, worst-case scenario, that these 4 trees will have to come down. Now, I have some pictures also that might help sort of set the stage here for each of these trees. There you go. This is looking up Pembroke Street towards the pipeline and the railroad bed, the first picture. And so the cluster of trees on the right is the location where the trees would have to come down.
The power line ones, where these power lines are, is that what you're saying, this cluster?
Yes, it's this cluster here, and it's the trees that are right closest to the road are the 3 that would come down. So there's 3 down here, there's a 4, 8, and 12 down here. The next picture is basically turning around, looking out towards Mount Hope Bay, and this is the larger tree. This is a 30-inch tree on the corner that would come down. This is Pembroke, and the intersection with Atlantic is just basically right at the end of where you see pavement. So that tree, we're assuming, would have to come down as well. But as I say, if the contractor can actually conduct this work and get the cable in, we're not going to take down trees if we don't have to.
That tree right there on city property or private property?
Big pardon?
That tree right there.
That's on, it's in the right of way.
Is that?
It's in the roadway right away. If you look,
Or the gas company?
I know there's a lot of boats and trailers and things stored there. Those are the neighbors. It's one of the neighbors around here that does this. There's a stockade fence.
I can see it.
Yeah, that's that's basically the property line. That's there because the water treatment plant's just on the other side of it, and I think it's just to screen it from the neighbors.
Okay.
You said it's a 2x2 frame,
2 feet by 2, yes.
and how far in from the street is the fence going off?
From the edge?
Yeah, from the edge of the street?
It's only a foot or two.
Yeah, in,
Yeah, it's only a foot or 2 from the end, from the sideline of the road. It'll be very close to the edge of the road.
With all due respect, I think the main question is, who's doing this work? Is the city contracting with you? Are you working
No,
with
we-
the gas company itself? or-
Algonquin will have a contractor to do this. They have a contractor that puts in these cathodic protection facilities, basically all over their system.
Right, but I think the tree removal would be the concern of this board, but I think the main
Right.
concern of this would go to the city council. I don't know.
That-
I think like a larger.
Well, Algonquin is talking with the city about the rights to put this into the road layout. That's, yes.
So the only thing this board would be able to do is give them permission to take the trees pending they get a contract and approval from whoever
Right.
else is involved
Right,
in this project.
I-
This board's interest is basically trees only, because you have no
Right.
right to say whether he can go in rail beds or streets or any of that. So just so this board knows their purview and what what their limits are as to this.
Thank you. I apologize, I didn't maybe make that clear, that it's my understanding that you control or regulate the removal of street trees or public
Right.
shade trees, which is what we're talking about. The installation of the facility is, we do need authorization and permits from the city for that, and that's from a different agency. I'm not actually sure. I'm an environmental scientist. I did the permitting on this. We also need other permits to put it out in the water, and we've applied for all those as well.
So if I can just interject, I apologize for being several minutes late. My name is Ivana Pejadovic. I'm with the Algonquin Gas Transmission Company. So Jean and I here are discussing the project that is a required maintenance project on our existing transmission line, the 8-inch natural gas transmission line. And as you pointed out just a few minutes ago, we have the land acquisition department that is specifically speaking to the owner of the easement, where we will be performing the installation of the cable, cathodic protection system cable, and then Within that easement, there are several trees that we are looking to remove as they're in the way of the cable installation path. And we just, based on the evaluation or assessment out there at the site, as well as technical and construction feasibility assessment, we have just concluded that we'll obviously try to protect, and we'll do our best to protect as many trees and hopefully just trim them if possible. But if they're in the way and direct path of the cable installation, then we'll probably have no other choice but to remove the trees.
But what I'm saying is, and just to advise this board, it seems to me that the minimal, the least amount of permission is gonna have to come from removing the trees. You have a lot more permissions to
Oh, yeah.
obtain before you
That is
remove
correct.
these trees. So it may be
Right.
best
Right.
for this board to not act on the removal of the trees pending all of the information or all of the other approvals that you get. And once you have all of your other approvals, then come before this board, because this board certainly wouldn't stop a project that other city departments and the city council and whatever have moved forward to bring to fruition for simply the removal of 4 trees. So it's good that you're making them aware that these trees may need to be removed, but I don't think that they're going to vote on the actual removal, because it's almost like worrying about something before you even have the permission, what kind of roof you're gonna put on the house before you even have the permission to build the lot, so to speak.
Understand. Now, these kinds of projects have been going on when it comes to Algonquin Gas Transmission, that has operational natural gas transmission line throughout the state. They have been going on for decades now. And cathodic protection system installation around the pipe has been a necessary maintenance operation that has happened throughout the state, in different states near our gas transmission lines. So typically what we do, we concurrently, as we're going through the environmental permitting phase and discussing the necessary maintenance work with the environmental agencies, we are concurrently conducting all of the site acquisition, easement access, discussions with the landowner. That usually goes hand in hand. Now, for this project specifically, what we kind of decided to do is we wanted to ensure that we have all of our necessary permits in line, because they typically take a lot longer than the discussions in order to acquire easements. They take up to 6 months, they could take 9 months. So what we decided to do is start the permitting process, discuss all of the necessary maintenance work that's upcoming with agencies, because we're pretty sure, as we have done this kind of work before throughout the different areas and regions and counties in the state, we feel pretty confident that we'll be able to acquire the easement from easement access from the landowner.
One of the other agencies we had to go to was the Conservation Commission, and we've actually already been in front of them, and they've already issued us an order of conditions to allow us to do the work. And to be honest with you, they're the ones that informed us that we needed to come to you for the tree removal process. Putting a utility, which this is essentially a facility as part of a utility, into the roadway, into a roadway layout, is actually not a very complicated process. We will need a road opening permit from the DPW. Typically, that's the way it's done in most municipalities. So it shouldn't be a big issue for that, but you're right, we do need other permits. And we need permits from the Corps of Engineers, believe it or not, to work out in Mount Hope Bay, and the DEP to work out in Mount Hope Bay, and we filed those. They're in process now to get those completed. We don't have them yet, but they're should be getting those fairly soon.
So all of that process has been started already. We've filed all of our permit applications with relevant agencies, and as I mentioned several minutes ago, typically that process takes 6 months, 8 months, so it kind of goes along with the necessary preparation that we need. Typically takes a lot longer to acquire permits versus the actual easement access from a
Right,
landowner.
but this board wouldn't issue a permit, it would be, you could come to a meeting 1 month and walk out with permission to cut those trees, so it's
Okay.
not exactly a permit, so
Okay.
that's why I'm saying, once your process moves along to a point where it's going to, if you're saying 6 or 8 months, you could come in here in month 5 and go, here's all our permits, they're all laid out. We
Right.
just want to make sure, and this board will probably even vote then that pending all your permitting is in order and all of the proper agencies and authorities have been contacted, if necessary, the trees can be removed. That's probably how they would motion even at that point.
I see. So if I'm following correctly, your line of thinking is that the board usually votes on whether to approve the tree removal once all of the environmental clearances, permits have been obtained, once
Once they
land
know the
acquisition.
project is going to
I
actually
see.
come to fruition.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
But
well,
it's good that
Yeah.
you brought it forward and we are aware of it, so if we are
Okay.
contacted, it's not something we're completely,
it's definitely got to go forward. It's a necessary requirement for protection of the pipeline from corrosion to keep it in service. It's an important pipeline for Fall River. It gives Fall River natural gas.
so basically this board has 2 choices. They vote to allow them to remove the trees if necessary, pending all of the necessary paperwork is in order, or they have them come back here and with copies of the necessary documentation, and they vote, and you vote with that vote. So that's the 2 choices basically that I see you have, unless someone can see any differently.
I make a motion that we keep it aside and have
Have
them
you
come
gone
back.
through the process of just explaining the protections? Since
I
they
did.
really
I-
works
we went
perfect,
through that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second
Okay.
that.
Can I ask one question? We know we have to provide compensation for the trees. The regulations, the city's regulations refer to a guideline, which we can't find, that talks about,
The street tree planting committee that is
Yep.
very active, that we have on our agenda all the time, they
Sure.
are very active with that. It's basically based on, I have a draft of it, I don't even have the complete, what was adopted, but it's based on the caliber of the tree.
right.
And the trees don't necessarily have to go back in that same spot.
Location,
I believe they can
yeah.
go back in different locations.
We have a report, they provided a report, I don't know if you've seen it, summarizing the trees that are proposed to come down and the quality of them and whether or not to replace them and what their recommendations are. And their recommendations were to have Algonquin provide compensation so that they could buy and put trees somewhere else. Beg your pardon?
Who provided that report?
It was Tori,
Adams.
yes, Tori Adams from the Street Tree Planting Program.
Oh,
Fall
that's
River.
exactly- Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly who I'm
Yes.
referring
Right.
to.
So they've
if
done
If
this-
the street tree planting
Right.
committee is happy, usually the city is
Right.
happy with that.
Okay.
The report
Cut them,
was,
They gotta place, if you cut down 4, you gotta replace 4.
right,
Understand.
this report was provided by Timothy Lockett. I'm assuming he's with that organization?
I believe,
Yeah,
yeah, and they
and-
also have people from Davies Tree that are involved in that street tree
Okay.
planting. It's a committee comprised of an arborist, I believe, so.
Uh-huh.
If you have a recommendation from that street tree planting committee, again, bring it forward at the time of the tree removal, and that will all go
Okay.
at the same time.
Okay.
And this board will all vote on everything all at the same time, because you'll have the documentation that we're not gonna
Yep.
have someone come back and say, this is not something we agreed on, because the street tree planting does play a very integral part in how we replace the
Sure.
trees.
I
Sure.
see.
Yeah, their recommendation was not to replant the trees in that location,
Right.
to
But
put them
to
some,
provide-
but to provide financial compensation so that they could go buy trees and put them somewhere else.
So financial compensation to the city, so that the city would in turn be able to allow the street tree planting
Right.
committee to purchase trees.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
It does not say in here exactly what that is, like how much that represents per tree, per caliper, whether it's altogether, we have about 50 inches of caliper that are going to come down between the 4 trees. Is that 50 inches of caliper trees to replace them, or?
I don't think. that
That's the question I have, is exactly what's the, the compensation that's going to be required, and then,
See, I don't think the street tree planting, I don't think the tree guidelines address monetary compensation.
Okay.
I think the tree guidelines represent caliber to caliber
I got you.
or whatever.
Okay.
But I'm sure that if an agreement is worked out in lieu of planting caliber trees, we're gonna give you this, I think something like that may be able to be worked
Okay.
into your agreement or your contract or whatever it is that you're going to have with the city.
Okay, who do we have, who do we get that from? I'm just trying to figure out, how much do we owe?
But I don't know,
We don't
I don't know that
do that.
it's in the street tree planting guidelines, a monetary amount.
Yep.
We would have to look, the city clerk would have that.
Actually, I called the city clerk and she didn't have it. Yeah.
Didn't you say some
Dr. Guy,
trees could just be
that's-
trimmed?
They might be able to be. It depends
They're
what,
trimmed, you don't have to replace them, right?
No,
right.
You just
They
trim
trim
If we can get by with just trimming them, yes, that's what we do. But
So you
some
don't
of
know
them,
that right now.
we don't know
The
till the contractor looks at it. There's a contractor on board and he looks at it and says, yeah, I can live with this one or I can't live with that one.
Okay.
Right, so this easement is usually what we assess is we have to take is less of the land or minimal easement that's needed for the width and length that we need for the installation of the cable. So this trench will be 2 feet by 2 feet, 2 feet wide, 2 feet deep. So a very small trench where that will be excavated where the cable will be installed. So this easement, as far as the width and length, will be minimal to accommodate that cable installation. Therefore, the piece of equipment that we're planning to utilize, the small Treco, it's a small piece of equipment that will be basically excavating the trench and then laying the cable. So with that in mind, the amount of impact will be minimal, or we'll try to make it as minimal as possible. But in order to safely lay this cable and ensure that it works effectively to protect the corrosion, to prevent the corrosion of the pipeline, some of the trees may have to be removed because they're simply in the direct path of the cable installation. So we'll do our best to trim the trees only and protect all of them and prevent the removal of all of the trees involved, but some of the trees may have to be removed. So hopefully we can just remove 2 trees instead of 4, maybe just 1, but we won't know that until the contractor is actually on board. They go to the site, they assess how much room they need. Obviously, they can't go outside of the easement that's granted to us, but
and that's why I say
they'll have
it's
to.
best to come back after the fact, because you will have that information, you will have the impact that it had, you will have the information of whether you had to trim a tree, remove a tree, and I guess in my head, I'm thinking the monetary amount would be based on what is the purchase price of the caliber of trees if you replaced it in trees.
Now,
I see.
you talked about negotiating what the replacement would be. Is that with the tree?
I would think the street
Tree planting
committee,
program?
And there's also an urban tree commission.
Okay.
And the director of public works.
John Perry?
John Perry, he serves, he.
I've spoken with him, and he actually directed me to the street tree
Yeah.
planting
So
program.
he's in that, so that group would be able to meet and determine an amount, and then that amount would be presented to
Okay.
this board.
Okay.
It was recommended to us that the diameter breast height will need to
Excuse
be.
me, Commissioner. Can we take a recess,
Motion to recess.
please?
Second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
5-minute recess. Convene the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. We have a motion on the table. I think we've gone as far as we can go
Yep,
with you.
I understand.
We have a motion on the table until the permitting process has been completed. Is there a second?
Second?
Who was
Motion
the
made.
second? It was Helen, motion, and Bob.
Okay, I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Okay, motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Now,
Thank you.
moving forward, we just send a letter asking to come before the commission?
Yes.
Yes,
And-
and you will come back to flip.
Okay,
So you can contact me.
okay, great. Yep,
And your commission, do you meet once or twice a month, or?
Once a month.
Once a month, okay.
First Wednesday of every month.
Right.
First Wednesday of every month, okay. So you would like us to come back once we have all of our permits, clearances in line, everything is done, complete, and then, of course, ask for your permission to remove the trees. Can I just ask a question regarding the permit or permission from the commissioners to remove these trees? How exactly does that permission look like? Would we
A
actually
letter.
get the?
It's a
okay.
letter?
It's a letter.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, we send a letter to you asking to address you and ask for permission to remove the trees, and then you, when we present the request in front of you,
You're
like
gonna- you're
at a
gonna
meeting
present-
like this.
You're going to present the request. You're also going to present the information from the street tree planting, if there's any compensation value of tree or
Sure.
the monetary, you use it. And then all of that will be voted. So it's pretty much going to be prior to you just starting your construction.
Understand? Okay.
Okay.
And you issued the letter, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be in
okay.
touch, obviously, before, and
Yes.
Right, right. We still have at least a couple of months before the
That
permits
information
and,
should be sent to Nancy
Yeah.
a week or
Yep.
two before the meeting.
The earlier the better.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so that-
okay.
yeah, we'll be in touch anyway.
I'm sorry, who is Nancy Smith? Are you Nancy Smith?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next item on the agenda, request from Jeffrey Chase regarding bicentennial tennis courts on Pleasant Avenue.
Evening, Mr. Chase.
Hi. Okay. Simple chairs, this is our 218 ratio. Just typically have them up. Just to give you some background,
Before you start, can you just
Yeah.
state your name and address for the record?
Jeffrey Chase, I live on 39 Lepus Road in Tiverton, Rhode Island.
Motion to waive the rule?
Motion is
Second.
made to waive the rules, seconded,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Mrs. Chase.
Okay, in terms of background, we've been playing at Durfee High School, our doubles league, for the last 10 years. We use all 8 courts every Tuesday night, and on Thursday nights, it's a rain delay. If there's a rain out on Tuesday, we use the courts on Thursday. We have about 40 to 50 players, all ages and all skill levels. Our league coordinator is Mike Ferreira, and he's been doing a great job. We got a very strong league, 40 to 50 players. We had every court filled last year, and as you know, Durfee is under construction, so we no longer have availability of those courts. So our request is simply to reserve the courts bicentennial for Tuesday night, 5 to 8, and with Thursday as a backup night if there's a rain, if it rains.
You say 5 to 8, but your email says 5:30 to 8:30.
Well, you know, people get there at 5 to warm up. The matches officially start at 5:30. We would try to run 2 matches on the same night, 5:30 to 7, and then another match right after that.
Question? Yeah. Thank you. So when you played at Durfee, did they charge you?
No, but we provided free tennis for members. They can donate if they like, $20, which most people do. And we also provided free 10 and under tennis for children under the age of 10, which is it's a significant cost, about a $700 cost every summer. And we also provided approximately $3,500 in scholarships for 2 camps that we run. One at Durfee and one with CD Recreation.
And how many courts were you looking for at Bicentennial?
You know, we're looking for 4. We were hoping for 4. I understand the rationale for leaving one open. for the public. If we could get 3, that would be very helpful. We could run 6 matches there. We'll find an alternative site for the other 2 matches. You know, it's all about scheduling and mashing up players to their appropriate skill level. Yeah.
Are these kids from Fall River or Tiverton?
Fall River.
Fall River?
Yeah. I mean, a few people will come over from Somerset to play. You know, you might have that, but it's primarily Fall River. Yep. We've been running the tennis association since 2006, and it's a volunteer organization. All the board members are volunteers.
And you say that would be a Tuesday night, 5 to 8:30,
Yep.
Thursday night a backup.
Yes.
The problem with the backup is you can't say you
Right.
don't have a backup.
Yeah.
Your backup is you're gonna have to reserve Thursday night. But I do wanna let the board know that Mr. Chase wanted to come here and express his, concern to you. But the board cannot award any of these requests prior to receiving all the requests that we advertised for.
Right.
So I did explain that to Mr. Chase that he could come in, but the board accepts applications until the end of February. We'll be advertising that in the newspaper, we'll be putting it on our website. But I wanted him to come in and let the board know because we have them. We also have, and Mr. Buston is gonna come as well to speak with you, Durfee. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of finagling with these courts now that Durfee
First come,
doesn't.
first served basis.
No, to be honest with you, the tennis courts, we used to have Fall River, Greater Fall River Tennis Association
Yeah,
years ago.
I used to play there, yep.
And they used to use all the courts, and tennis was a very prominent
Yeah.
thing in the city. We haven't had as many tennis leagues, and thus the condition of our tennis courts.
Well, we've been going strong since, again,
No, but I'm
2006,
saying
yeah.
they're not used on a regular basis as far as
Well-
city parks.
Yes, well, the Lower Kennedy is not really usable.
No, exactly. There are a lot of
Yeah.
parks that need rehabbing
Yeah.
of tennis courts, and we've done the basketball courts, but I just wanted the board to know that they cannot motion
Right.
second on this tonight.
I believe Mr. Sutter is still doing tennis lessons down there also.
Okay.
So that is a scheduling issue right now.
Doing good work. This is doing good work for kids.
Yeah, we think so.
Great.
We know we put them on the list, right?
Right, I'm gonna see if I can work out a schedule as far as the schools and this organization. They've worked together before. The problem is they've got half as many courts to work with.
Yeah, our league starts after the high school season. Second week of June, third week of June, we have an open house, open to the community, and then we start for the summer. Some of the kids from Durfee play sometime. Yeah.
Motion to put them on.
We're just gonna accept the letter and place it.
Yeah.
with the permits.
I'll make a motion to place the letter on file and
Second.
wait for we do the permits. We have to publicize the
I'll
permits.
second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded to place the request on file pending scheduling of when we do the permit process.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Genio coming in.
Have a good night.
You too, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the use of North Park Baseball and Bicentennial Park tennis courts. Brad Buston and Durfee High School.
Brad Buston, 97 Delcar Street, Fall River, Mass.
And from your email, it's only the JV and freshman baseball, correct?
What's that?
For North Park, it's only JV and freshman.
Yeah. For games.
So the board knows that I had Mr. Buston submit me the game schedule only because North Park plays there, there's another, I have 3 requests at this point for North Park Senior League Field.
Who's the third one?
Argosy School.
Odyssey School, yeah.
So I asked for all of the games to be submitted first so we can work out schedules for games, and then practices we'll have to work out after the fact. I think the games are the crucial part. of this equation to have worked out first. I know that the Little League, I talked to them, the only issue that they may have is the last week, because their senior leagues open up, their Little Leagues open up earlier, but their senior leagues don't open up until, I think, the last week in May. So that may be the only issue we may have. Maybe they can move it, maybe we can schedule games around that, but I just wanted everybody to,
I think what we can do with JV also, and this happens when we go to other places like Brockton, we have to be off the field by 5 o'clock. So if we start the game at 3:30 and we're in the 5th inning or the 4th inning and it's 5:30, the game ends.
right,
It's not ideal, but for a JV game, it's okay.
right.
For a varsity game, you wouldn't be able to do that. So if they had a,
It may not even have an issue, but I like to get those things up,
Yeah.
all together up front, so everyone is not surprised, there's no,
Right. Yeah.
issues to,
I just have one question regarding Odyssey. Because of the location of the school, they requested North Park, they didn't request anything else closer,
I have no idea.
like True or Maplewood or.
I have no idea when they requested that.
Anybody have any?
Well, really, we can't really do anything until we schedule it and.
So as
I
far
re-
as, and he's
yeah.
also requesting tennis, so as far as the tennis, your matches are 3:30, and they would not interfere with that other organization that just left?
Yeah, you said they start after the season gets over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be a Tuesday night, right?
We're done by June 2nd.
No, I'm saying it wouldn't be a Tuesday night,
And
though, right?
the other gentleman
No,
said he
so
starts
they'll be done
later
by
in the
then.
summer,
Oh, I see.
but it's just good to have all that information
Yeah.
up front.
We're actually, like, I know we put down the game dates, but we really could use it every single day.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
your original request has every day
Yeah.
and Saturday. So just so the board knows, the original request has every day after school and Saturday. But I tried to narrow it down so we could work this out first, but I'm assuming that whatever day is available, Durfee High School is gonna want for practice.
Now, that every day and Saturday is just for the tennis?
No baseball.
And baseball.
Oh, and baseball.
Baseball, we could work around if we had to. We only have one field now at Durfee, and that field is historically very wet, and it doesn't really dry out until the end of April, early May. But we do have the 2 turf football fields that we practice a lot on, just for infield work. You can't have a full practice on the turf football field, but you can get a lot done as far as practice goes, infield practice. We have an indoor batting cage at Durfee, so we could use that, but once we can get on the varsity field at Durfee, we'll be okay. But it would be nice to have a ball field that we could go to if we needed to practice.
Play scenario.
Yeah, yeah.
The only thing that I can suggest is that we accept this, place on file until we get the scheduling situated.
And the formal motion?
Yep.
Nope.
One second.
Motion been made, seconded, to place on file pending the permitting schedule. Any further discussion?
I have a further discussion, only because in the end, it'll come up as far as bathrooms are concerned.
Yeah, I talked to,
Well, I was gonna mention that, but I wasn't sure if,
Well, I just want to make him aware that he may
Yeah.
be able to have
Yeah.
to get
funny.
bathrooms.
because,
Ken Pacheco couldn't, he was supposed to come tonight, but he couldn't make it. But that's the one question that I did ask him. And he said they would be prepared to get porta johns if they had to.
but last time they said that and you didn't do it.
I think
Am I wrong?
at Britland
No,
Park.
It says Kenny Pacheco.
Yeah, I know, but
No, they didn't get.
they didn't get them. So
Right.
if you-
I think because of the number of games that we had there, we only ended up having a couple games.
But if you say you're gonna get them, then you need to get them.
We had a little bit of a
Yeah.
complaint about not having bathrooms, so
Okay.
we're gonna have to,
Okay.
we're gonna have to have it as a condition. The bathroom goes there before the permit goes out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will be in touch. I know you start early, but
Hang on.
they should have.
We gotta vote.
March 18th is the
Nancy,
first.
we gotta vote, hang on. Because you had
No, he's
discussion.
got to vote. You got Marcy and motion in a second?
Yeah, but we didn't vote on it.
File it. Did we?
We placed on file,
That's on file.
Okay,
Until we get a schedule.
pending the schedule.
okay.
Until we get a schedule.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Next item on the agenda, correspondence from Chris Gallagher regarding bid, award, and funding source for Ruggles and Father Kelly Park Pathways Project. And he's not here.
Yeah.
Chris could come in?
This is the documentation that the board asked. The board in October, I believe, tabled or said to Mr. Gallagher until he provided the documentation that there was ample funding for the project.
So I'm gonna have to, I'll make a motion to lift it off the table because it was tabled. And for us to do this and discuss it, we have to lift it from the table. So I'll make a motion to lift it off the table so we can discuss it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So I would make a motion to award this, because this is what we wanted. Little January, I guess, is better than nothing, but October, we did wait for this. We could have done it a lot earlier, so I hope that the board doesn't get blamed for prolonging any projects. The only question I have is the letter of award is dated 2/4/2019, and I suggest that I make a motion that we send the letter of award because this was tabled from the park board. So you can't award anything if it's tabled. So I'll make a motion that we send a letter of award and this one's null and void. Please.
Motion's been made and seconded. Motion's been made. Is there a
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
So I'm gonna send a letter of award from the park board awarding the contract.
Right, and we, I'm gonna revise that. I'd like to amend that motion, please.
Okay.
I'd like to, I make a motion, wait a minute, I make a motion to amend that, please.
Motion made to amend the previous motion.
Because, also, we can find out where the funds go, right? We wanna see what's being paid.
Well, what I would, I'm not sure how the account was set up, but being a park project, I would assume that any time a payment is made for something that you can ask to either A, have to sign off on the payment, or B, be afforded information regarding this, because the point you're getting at is you don't want what to happen again,
Right, I don't want to be, I just don't want it to come back to the board and say,
something
like
was paid-
Tabasco Park, and like, next thing you know, we're getting in trouble for the road going through a rail. Everything comes back to the park board, and it's like, you don't know. So I'd like to make sure that we do know what's going on with this, the 336 money, and we can follow it, so that way there, before it's turned over, we can see where the funds are going.
Well,
I'm trying to say.
I guess the motion would be,
Just like we did with this.
Come in and explain this to us?
Well,
no, it wasn't to explain.
We
It was to
wanted
award,
this,
but the board can ask him to provide them with a copy of what he's paying for when he makes payments, for like his bill schedules. I would assume that the board could ask him to provide that, a copy of that type of information, because it would tell you, I paid for 6 benches, this many linear feet of roadway, and this is what was paid for in that particular thing. And then the other thing the board could do is prior to, I would like this in the contract, to be honest with you, prior to final payments, and these projects being turned over to the park board, that we have a walkthrough with either 2 members of the park board and myself, or whatever, so that these things are accepted and everybody knows what they're accepting, and that the final retainage fee is not paid out to somebody before this walkthrough happens. Because once the money is gone, we can't go back and go, hey buddy, you didn't do this right, because he's gonna go, have a nice day. But if I'm holding $10,000 of his money, or $38,000 of his money, I don't know if it's 5 or 10%, that if there's a set amount, I know if you can hold 5, I don't know if you can hold more than that, but 5% of $338,000, if you didn't do something, I go, well, you didn't do it, no problem, I'm gonna take your 5% and I'm gonna do it myself. But that's kind of the problem that we had with the last situation.
Right.
All the money was paid out, and those other projects that Mr. Caesar came in here and
The hockey.
told us about, we had nothing to say because the money was all paid. So I think I know what Marcy's saying. She wants him to give
You'll know.
whenever he sends a schedule for payment,
Right,
she'd like a copy to come to the board.
right, so we can know what's going on with it, that way there.
I believe these monies are put into a line item account that I would imagine I could be given access to, but I don't have, we wouldn't be the ones paying the bills.
I think that
Mr.
Mike
Gallagher's
Dion
office
made a
would.
statement once that everything has to be before him, before he signs a check. Am I right, Monica?
We can't ask her right
No,
now, right?
No, I think what you're saying, I know what you're trying to say with Mike.
Yeah.
What used to happen with CDA is, before a payment was made, a letter would come to this board, and then the board would have to send a letter to Mike saying, the Board of Park Commissioners at the meeting of such and such approved payment of the following invoices, because the invoices were presented to them as well. And then Mike would be able to pay. That's how
Sign
I,
the check. Yeah.
that's how
Whatever it is.
CDA, that's how we used to pay out CDA money.
Because we used to get the bills here and approve them, and then they would be paid.
Right, so the project used to come through the parks. So now with the project coming through, going through building facilities, it's not gonna go through Mike, but I would think that he could present the bills to the Board of Park Commissioners and stating, these bills are going to be paid and I need you to sign off on them. And this way the board knows that they're being paid, or at least provide you with a copy of them, I guess. I think you can ask for copies of all payments made toward this contract.
I like the idea of doing a walkthrough before you make the.
Well, they were
final.
supposed to, if you remember last time, Chris had stated he was gonna do a walkthrough with her, and I don't believe we ever got to that. But now I have another question. It says, Board of Park Commissioners, so we do sign this contract, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if our name's going on it, then I would hope that we get to see where the funds go, because we're signing it as we should, and I just feel that we should be able to get,
Copies of any and all invoices.
exactly, we're signing these.
Okay, so you want copies of any and all invoices
To the board.
to come before the board for approval
Yeah, they should, I mean, that way
or
there.
prior to payment?
Prior
So
to
it's-
payment.
So it's not one superseding the other,
Yeah.
it's basically a common knowledge of the bills that are going to
Exactly,
be paid.
exactly.
Any
That
more
makes sense.
adding of the pending the walkthrough by
Yes.
members of the board?
Yeah,
I make it to the resolution, yep. Make the motion.
So motion been made, is there a second?
This is a long motion.
Second. The walkthrough?
well,
Yes.
Walkthrough, and we get copies of payments,
At least the secretary.
so we know where the money's going.
At least the secretary.
Okay, and no final payment is made without a walkthrough and approval of this board, because the final and a turnover to the board, because eventually the project is turned over.
okay.
Okay, I'll try to do my best.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Next item on the agenda, request from the Travel Channel for filming in Oak Grove Cemetery.
Good evening, Monica, Chris.
Good evening. So this request came in through the cemetery office to have the Discovery Channel film in Oak Grove Cemetery, specifically around the Borden family and Sarah Maria Cornell, who was one of the first homicide victims in the city of Fall River. The show would be called Hometown Horror, and they are traveling the United States to film different historical stories and alleged hauntings that are associated with them.
So what's that? I love that chat.
They did emphasize, though, that it's not a ghost hunting show.
The show's focus is more on the history of the town and how legends and lore weave themselves into the area's cultural fabric. So it's not your typical haunted show.
They have their insurance cover this.
They do. I think they have the cemetery and the city itself on it. Chris is clearly the point of contact at the cemetery. I'm their point of contact in the mayor's office. And I did tell them that they were on this month's agenda. They are going to have an updated summary on the specific dates that they will be coming with. I think you guys have this in your sheets. If not, I can send this to
It was the
Nancy.
synopsis that I forwarded to you.
Yeah, they have that, that's.
Okay.
the email. You have the email, right?
Doing story recordings.
So it's Lizzie Borden, Sarah Maria Cornell, and hauntings associated with the King Philip War.
Oh, yeah, right there,
Lady,
yeah.
you just said Sarah. Was it the first
Sarah
side?
Maria Cornell, she was one of the,
What year was that?
It's really
it was early.
old.
Yeah.
Before the Bordens.
She was murdered.
Yes, before the boarding. She's one of the first homicide victims in the city of Fall River. I think the legend, if you will, is she might have been killed by a pastor.
Yeah, Kennedy Pop.
Yeah,
Wow.
Is that old?
yeah.
Not just another pretty face.
I love that channel too, but what's wrong with it?
Is this,
So they will be sending an update, and if they're not here because your meetings are the first week of March, I can come and send you all the updated information. Any concerns, questions that you guys have, I don't mind forwarding that to them, so that way they have an idea of what you guys are looking for. Attorney Macy is also aware of their interest in filming at the cemetery.
Do we get a special thanks for the
we get a showing?
Do we get
That
a
would be
showing? We always
nice.
are left out.
In the
We're
credits?
always left out, the Patriots.
We're all
always
waiting
left
for
out.
a big
Everybody
break, yeah.
They could give it a showing.
They could, yeah.
That would be
We're always
nice.
left out. No,
Yeah.
thank you, no
So
nothing.
so are we looking at table until?
has this group ever been here before?
I don't believe so.
You
The
got
travel,
other group-
the travel channel may have, but
No, this is not the same one.
not this
Jack.
particular group.
And we've had other groups though
Yeah,
before.
yeah, but this is not the same one.
Oh, it's not?
This production company is Talos Films.
Who is it?
Talos,
Talos.
T-A-L-O-S.
You met it personally?
No, not yet, but I'm gonna see if
Spoken
they have
over the
any,
phone.
yeah.
Did they say when exactly they're going to do it?
They're looking sometime in mid-March. The exact dates are to be determined, but I do expect an update sometime in February, probably in the next week or two, and I can send you those exact dates. The woman that I spoke to also mentioned that they'll be looking to film while the cemetery is open. They don't want to accrue any extra costs with like staffing, that sort of thing. So they are going to do it within the hours of the cemetery.
And it won't interfere in your daily
Um,
routine?
I will say yes and or no. It would depend on funeral arrangements, but those funeral arrangements would take precedence over any filming, so.
Yeah, they would stop.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
As far as our operation in maintaining the cemetery, it won't interfere. On a grand scale, there'll be plenty of work that we can do in other areas of the cemetery. But if there were to be a funeral, any and all work would stop in the cemetery, as usual with our crews. And Kara Resendi's group has followed that rule as well while they've been doing work there.
You know how many days they requested?
I think
Roughly
it's,
a week, a day, a couple hours on one day, or?
I want to say it's a two-day film,
So if-
yeah,
2 8 hour
along
days?
Chris- along Chris's line.
probably.
2 8 hours.
They will, I'm sorry,
No, no.
they will highlight the times that they will be. This will all be in the location agreement, which you guys can get a copy of. And we'll also have that as a clause too, so that way they're aware that, funerals or any cemetery work is taking precedent. But they do lay all of that out, the specific times, the days,
That's
how
what I
many,
was looking for
yeah.
because, as Chris said, if there's funeral going
Yeah,
on or
absolutely.
something like that, and they show up and they're gonna be put out, I don't wanna have them to have to come back to this board to say, hey, we were supposed to be here on this day, we couldn't because of a funeral, now we're looking for another day. If we can get an alternate day or two for that contingency,
Okay.
that would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I've been in contact with this group as well as the city's corporation council, and, you know, the last access agreement, I was a part of those discussions and working with both the production company and the attorney's office to make sure that all of those things were ironed out before anything was signed.
Yes.
So, what I would, you're gonna be there, you'll oversee it, so if, say, there was a funeral or something, and it's only a 2-day that request that they said that they may need, right? You'll work with it, and you can just either, you know, send an email to us or to Nancy, and just keep us up to date with
Absolutely.
things, that's all.
Then again, a funeral, an hour, so they cease.
I don't really,
They
I
cease for an
mean,
hour.
it seems like they have it all under control.
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
people-
they vary,
They know,
and we haven't had any
you're
issues in the
there,
past.
You're gonna you monitor it, you're gonna, you know, it's a 2-day thing, so, I mean, I'll make a motion to accept.
I second that.
Second, okay.
Motion been made, seconded, to grant permission.
Nice.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you just send it
Do
in
we
the
get to
mail,
be,
you get
do we get to be movie stars?
Not in that one.
Could be your big break,
Maybe
yeah,
you could
concert.
be- Maybe you can become an actor, Chris.
What's that?
Maybe you can become an actor.
Maybe. Prefer not to, though.
Next item on the agenda, open meeting law complaint from Colin Dias regarding the board response at the January 9th meeting.
Yeah.
Regarding,
Do you wanna come down and speak?
I didn't have much to say.
You just want us to answer the response?
Yeah, I was gonna-
Okay.
you got something?
Well, you gotta, should you gotta,
When we were given this, complaint, I was told to contact the city clerk's office because Mr. Dias, what I was told was, wanted my email address. I spoke to the city clerk on the phone and told her that she was more than welcome to pass my email address on to Mr. Dias. I awaited a response and never got one.
can we say something?
She's my friend.
Wait a minute. All right, can I,
Commissioner Goss?
yeah, okay, so, just state your name. if you don't mind.
Colin Dias, 560 Ray Street.
Okay, so, if I'm understanding this correctly, we just have to answer your, violation that you said.
Complaint,
Okay,
yes.
the complaint, okay, that's right. So,
In writing.
we're gonna say it now, but then we have to submit
Right,
it in
correct,
writing.
correct.
That's what the
No, that's
Attorney
fine,
General's office has
right,
said.
right.
Okay. All right. Just so we're clear. We have a date that we have to do it by. So you would be okay that we just discuss it, let's see. So I personally don't feel like we're in violation of any open meeting law, okay? The one I can address with Mayan about the executive session, it is, we want transparency. Executive session is just what I stated, so it's not an open meeting law violation, so I don't really feel that is. And Helen, she can't hear, so she talks loud. So,
I just had confusion on
Sure.
what was the final vote count. That's one of the reason why I wasn't.
oh, Well, you-
I just didn't know what was the final vote. So, to ramify my complaint, on the complaint, you can just tell me what was fine. I just didn't understand who voted which way. It was a little bit of confusion. In respect to that part of the open meeting law complaint,
Okay.
nothing personal.
So you want us to respond with the roll call vote, because there was a.
It,
Well,
yeah, I don't know, whatever I put down.
But the thing is, we can't now because, well, let me rephrase this. You have filed with the Attorney General's office this
Yeah,
of
right.
everything. So we can't say we can't answer it now because you wanted the roll call. So we have to.
No, I want an answer.
Right, well, you said that you don't, just regarding the roll call. So, but for the other ones, we'd like to speak on it. So, the confusion is, I see that here that you're saying, so you didn't, hear the roll when we took the,
Yes, there was confusion on which way, commissioners voted. I just had a confusion
so we
on
can
that.
take care of that.
Right.
Okay?
The reason I decided to actually come down, I told you before I didn't want to come down
okay.
because I actually did forward the complaint to the chairman, and I can prove that right now if I have to, because I have it right on my phone. If I did send that to, I actually sent it, did a little bit of research on my own, and I actually sent the complaint to you before. I reached out to the city clerk to make sure I had the right email address, and the email address that the city clerk gave me matched the one I already sent the complaint to. I don't know if you received, it might have been an
I
error.
didn't receive anything from you.
I know I know for a fact I
I'm not saying
sent
you
it.
didn't send it, I'm saying that I didn't receive it.
No, it's okay. I have an old
I
AOL.com
received this complaint
account, so.
in a text message from a board member.
No.
From,
You received that complaint
It was a text
forwarded from me,
Oh, you
every board member, because Mr. Dias sent it to myself and the city clerk. And every time Mr. Dias would send that, I forward the meeting complaints via email
Right.
to every one of the
Okay.
board.
And I forwarded it myself to the
okay.
chair.
So
That's how
let's
that was
just,
received.
let's just get what you need and.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay?
Respond the way you want. That,
You know?
I understand. I just wanted to come down to clarify I
Clarify
did.
that, so you did send it.
I did.
You sent it.
Okay, so
Either
we
way,
know
I
you sent it.
We do know that we got that. So
Yeah,
I want you to know that the board did get your complaint.
Yes.
I just know the Attorney General request that it gets sent to the clerk and the chair of
And
the
chairman,
board.
You're absolutely correct.
But that's all I just wanted to say.
Wait, then might as well just, if you don't mind.
No, no,
So
that's fine.
then, as soon as, you said the board take open meeting law training. I've taken the open meeting law training, I've taken the IGO training,
Good.
so I am up to date with my,
I do know they
Training.
updated the open meeting law in 2017.
that's correct, they did. But I did recently take it, so, because I haven't been on the board long, but I did take it, so just so you.
Right, that wasn't towards any that was in general, so I don't know who took it in general. Just
Okay, well, I have taken it, just to let you know, I have taken it and I pass on the information, I share it, and, so we try the best that we can. But it is very informative to let you know.
okay.
So thank you for that. But as far as the other one about the bias with the mayor, we're a non-political board.
I'll reserve any personal opinion.
That's
I'm not going to
fine.
get into it.
That's
but
fine, and you're entitled to your opinion, but this board works very hard, and,
I just felt maybe a little disrespected because I believe I had every right to come down and discuss what I had to without and I felt like it was made a little bit personal by some members. That's just my opinion.
well,
So
if that's how you felt, then for me, we're sorry. I'm sorry, we're sorry.
No, it's all good.
Okay. So, I guess that's about it, right? We basically deny it's not an open meeting violation.
In regards to the clear vote, it would reflect in the minutes who took what. That's why that would be that part of the complaint, at least. But now, just respond the way you want, and then I'll decide what I want to do from there.
Well, we'll respond in writing to the Attorney General's office. And
Yeah,
then
right. And I'll get a copy,
and then
then I
you'll get a
just
copy,
and I
and
decide
then-
if I want to appeal it or not.
You can appeal, well, they have to make their decision first, or investigate if they
Maybe
feel
we'll
it's
call
necessary.
vote right there.
So,
Is there anything else that you're looking for here, or is that it?
No, I was just looking for a response. I didn't even know, I wasn't originally gonna come down to speak until I just wanted to clarify that I did send a response, the complaint.
okay, so wait a minute, what was the other thing? The vote?
Yes. I have it right here. I have it right here.
So, you said you couldn't hear us, so the only,
I know it was raising of the hands, it was just confusion when it went through my recollection of the meeting. I didn't see who raised a hand for what. Actually, I believe you didn't raise your hand for either.
yeah, we
My
don't,
recollection.
we don't raise our hand here. We raise our hand.
I
to
didn't, and
speak.
I didn't hear you say aye either. I just didn't hear it.
Oh.
Not saying if you did or not.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay.
This had to be clear.
A roll call vote was taken to ask if the correspondence can be placed on file. If you like, I will go through everyone's vote.
It was a 3-3 tie. I remember that being
No,
said.
no,
It wasn't.
Because Commissioner
4-2.
Rigo, who originally had motioned in second to place it on file, when there was a roll call vote, Commissioner Rigo voted no. So Commissioner Tavares voted yes, Commissioner Farias voted no, Commissioner Schulenberg voted yes, Commissioner Sylvia voted no, Commissioner Yitkin voted no, and Commissioner Rigo voted
It
no.
was 4-2.
4-2.
Okay.
It will stay with our minutes, but there's really nothing we can do.
But
No,
we'll
that's-
send that to the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming down.
Next item on the agenda, department updates.
Excuse me, Martha, do we need a motion in second to say that the board is going to send correspondence that there was no? No.
Oh, yes. I would, yeah. We'll have to send I'll make a motion to send a correspondence.
Second?
What, to the AG, though?
To the
Yes.
Attorney General's office, yeah, and to Mr. Dias.
Mr. Dias. Oh.
Yeah.
They send it to Mr. Dias.
No,
No.
we send it to, yeah.
General, yeah.
Yep. And I will make sure the board is.
Motion is made and seconded.
Thanks, Nancy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Next item on the agenda, department updates.
Nancy, you want to go first?
Yes, so basically I have, ball field permits that are gonna take a big chunk of this board's time and a big chunk of my time sorting out what's what. So within, tomorrow I can post the correspondence to the website that we're accepting applications for events and ball field permits, so the correspondence that you kind of addressed tonight will come in from all the leagues with their concerns, whatever. I also, I used to send out individual letters, but I think the website is more modern form of communication. If I don't receive something from a league I normally get something from, I will reach out to them, so. And I can send the letter just the same. The other thing I just wanted to make the board aware of is, I guess last night's council meeting was brought up of lighting costs.
Yes.
So the league's paying for lights,
Yeah.
so that might be something that this board wants to look into.
You may want to, we can't discuss it on the agenda, so we may want to put that on the agenda for next month.
Was there a problem with the lighting in the ballparks?
Well, I guess it was just mentioned by the city council that they don't feel the league should have to pay for the lighting,
Okay.
which
Yeah, we'll bring that up at another time.
Yes,
There was also.
just a suggestion.
You wanna make that a motion, put it on the agenda?
We can't.
you can't motion to put it in. I just wanted to make the board aware of it. I didn't know if anyone had watched the meeting.
I did.
There was also some mention about the board actually meeting in front of the council
Yeah?
for, not for the lighting, for,
Maplewood Park.
We can talk about that in
Yeah.
commissioner inquiry, if that's
I
okay,
never heard
guys.
of that.
Yeah, they do.
Has the board ever went in front of the council?
in commissioner inquiries.
No.
I don't think they want you to go in front of the council. I think they want to just have a joint meeting of some sort.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I misunderstood.
Nancy, go ahead.
But basically, that's, you know, what we're up against. The weather's gonna start changing.
As we feel it now.
The manpower remains the same.
Schedule, it's gonna be tough.
The budgets, you know, we're gonna have budgets coming up that we need to present. I don't know if I can put in an increase of manpower. I guess you can put in, I guess you can ask for things. I don't know if you get them, but I guess you can ask for just about anything. So that's what we're kind of up against at this point.
What's
So,
the total we have right now?
Bed,
Yeah,
12.
12?
Imagine that.
Do we always get extra out for the summer?
No.
Can we request it?
Yeah.
In years past, I mean, I've compared other budgets in 1995 and back then, I mean, I think the cemetery had 10 and we had 26. And I don't know about you, but we're nowhere near that number. And even with those 26, 6 of them were seasonal that were paid for by the city. I mean, and we used to get crews and crews of kids
Yep.
that had supervisors as well, because we don't take kids without supervisors, because we don't have the manpower to supervise them. But,
How many in the cemetery right now?
Right now,
Are you done?
I have,
Are you done?
yeah, I guess, I mean, but the manpower is an issue, and money's an issue.
Who do we go to request from? Summer help? We have to
Sometimes the
request it.
summer help is a little bit more of a hindrance than a help, depending on the kind of summer help you get. Because if kids don't want to work, they're not very easy to corral in. So we used to get adults. We used to get adults for those 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So it all depends what programs are available. But technically, we have certain limitations as to ages because we operate equipment, so we can't really take kids under 18 years old. If we do, they can only pick papers. So they're limited to what they can do, so. We've really truly to reinvest in our manpower in the parks. We have
More people.
29 parks and playgrounds.
Yeah, 12 guys.
We do the median strips. I mean, we do have a lot of work for that amount of men.
I think so.
So, but that's, every budget I make, I say my main concern is manpower and, you know, the amount of properties we have and you know, people think it's just cutting grass. It's not just cutting grass. You know, there's playground equipment, now we have splash pads and we got all kinds of things all over the place, so it's a little bit more complicated than it used to be. But business as usual, here comes spring. We're gonna get to high gear.
Chris, what's your manpower?
currently in the cemetery, we have 6
6?
workers, including a foreman and working foreman, and 4 laborers, so.
That's included the foreman and the working.
So it's my
That's
12.
right. Yes.
So is my
4
12.
guys.
We have 4 laborers, correct.
My count is including my foreman and my 2 working foremen and my mechanic.
Yeah.
So she could,
So I have 8.
So we got 8.
So
And I
my,
gotta say, not because it's Nancy and not because it's the park board, they do a hell of a job, that people you have.
the,
I know,
the,
got time for my brother's memorial, but it's right up to the park all the time. And I thank you all the time for it too.
the foreman and working foreman in my department, like Nancy's, jumps in and does regular labor work. In the tree division, our staffing level is a supervisor and a forester. Currently, the only position we have filled is the supervisor role. So we have 1 person in the tree division to handle all tree division work. So,
Is that Chris?
yes, Chris Martin, yes. So typically when there's tree calls, we do pull men from the cemetery, and if we're working in the parks, they offer park laborers to assist us in that work as well. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but we're working through it. We're lucky to have, you know, people who step up to the plate and pitch in when they can. And we also have money set aside in the tree division budget to hire outside contractors for jobs that are just too big for us. to handle.
So did you start preparing your budget?
I did, as of today, yep. Started working on that.
So that when we put it on the agenda, you'll be ready to show us?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So hopefully we can fill that vacancy in the tree division soon, because it would be nice to have at least 2 people there doing that work. But otherwise,
That would be laborers?
it's a forester position, so it requires licensing above and beyond a laborer's position. So they're required to have a CDLB in order to drive a single body truck. They also have to drive standard because it is a standard transmission CDL truck. And they also have to have a backhoe hoisting engineer's license to operate the backhoe.
hoist.
Correct.
Was that off $9 an hour?
I want to say it's in the $16 to $18 range, and then stipends for having the licenses required.
Right.
Any new business?
Do you have anything else in the department?
That's it.
Can I ask Chris, how's that thing going?
Yeah, so as far as the digitization project, the request has gone into the treasurer's office to transfer the money from
Who sent the request?
Yeah.
John Perry.
For what? I got the letter for them to sign right now.
Okay.
That was part of the,
I didn't hear it.
that was part of the stipulation, didn't we?
You wanted the money transferred into the cemetery budget.
Right, but it has to be signed by
It
the
has to be
park board.
by the
Okay.
park board.
So I have the letter there, so it will be
Okay.
transferred, it's there for him to sign.
So the transfer hasn't occurred yet. We don't have the money. And as far as SciTech is concerned, we haven't scheduled the work. They're wrapping up some projects and moving forward with that.
I just don't get it.
Look at me.
I don't honestly get it. We say something, we say something, we second, we table, here's another one, we table. It's like, what? I don't know.
Well, they don't get the money until they start
We have to
the
sign
work.
it.
I'm telling you, this is perpetual care, this is money that people come after us, they
I
talk
might have
to us.
misspoke. I mean, if you have to sign the letter, then that's going to be a requirement from the treasurer's office too, to have that letter signed from the park board. So
No, I think what happened,
You know what
I
I'm
think
saying.
what needs to happen from this board is a letter needs to come from this board to the various departments
We
concerned,
talked about that.
stating that if it has to do, if that's how this board feels, I don't want to speak out of turn, but if this is, that the board state that when it has this park board's name on it, or is it a park property,
Or cemetery.
or cemetery property, nothing moves forward without the signature of this board. I think that's something that may have to be reiterated again. I think what's happened is it's gotten away from what the system and what the process used to be. So people that are new in these different departments are not aware of the system that is in place by Mass General Law or whatever.
And city
So,
ordinance, in the charter.
so I think maybe next meeting again on your agenda, you can vote for such a thing to take place. I just think that that may be the best. I think the board is struggling. I think you're banging your head against the wall of how come this is happening without our signature? How come this is happening without our signature? I think perhaps if you make other departments aware of it, they'll know that it can't be done. I don't know.
So
I would just say like
if-
purchasing as far
if-
as contracts.
if I can reiterate, money hasn't been transferred to our budget. We don't have the money. No work has been approved. No contract has been signed.
I
So
believe the money has to be transferred to a specific
Line item.
item,
As
not
we
in your
stated.
operating
And-
budget, like a grant. I think
Right.
that's what was said at this board,
Right.
and that the auditor will probably set it up that way, so that any of that $37,000, say for example, one lot, he quoted something, but for some reason he can't do whatever, and it's discounted by $500.
Right.
That $500
goes back to perpetual
goes
care.
back to sale of lots,
Right.
where the money came from.
And that's why
not
this
in your
board would
operating
approve
budget.
all
Right.
expenditures from that.
Exactly.
Exactly,
That's-
exactly.
Yeah.
Because they said, I said, a line item, and so it's in the minutes. If we have to go back and
Right.
send it so that you'll know. or you know, exactly how it has to be.
Right.
That way we're aware.
This, they will sign that letter tonight, so the
Yeah.
city auditor will have it
Yeah.
tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And I'll let John know, or you can let John know.
I will.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Commissioner input.
When did the nets go back up at Mayfield? When did they put the nets up? March?
Judging by how long it took to go up the first time, I think we better start now. No, the season opens end of March, so I would assume by the next park board meeting, this board again can put that item on their agenda, that they would like to see the net
Go back up.
addressed.
I just don't wanna wait for the last minute, you know?
Well, you don't want to put it up too soon, there's still snow.
Yeah, you don't wanna do
We
it
could have a
now.
blizzard.
But you don't wanna wait till the
Before they
last
play.
minute. Exactly.
So across the street, not all upset.
And we don't want it, we want it up well in advance of opening
Yes.
day.
Absolutely.
Once we get all these requests in, we'll know of the opening day. Most of them are mid-April, so if we put it up by the late March, we should be good.
Sounds good.
I just have one suggestion. You may want to watch the city council meeting from last night,
Yes.
okay?
There's a lot of questions I'd like to ask. I'm gonna wait till we shut.
We'll put it on the agenda, but you may want to watch it. Very informative. Just a suggestion.
Motion to adjourn?
No, I'll second that, Joe.
Motion is made, seconded to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you for coming to the Board of Park Commissioners meeting.
We have to